Okay, so I need to stick a head and a neck on this object, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the what I'll generically refer to as rigging this character. So the rig is in simple terms, is the relationship between the objects and any dependencies that we create. So right now, this model that we've built is rigged in a very simple way that we can grab the lower body and we can move it around. We can grab the upper body and we can move it and rotate it, and all its dependencies move with it. So we'll affectionately refer to this as rigging. Now it certainly gets way more complex than this. You can dedicate an entire career to doing nothing but rigging for animation, and we'll take a little bit deeper dive into this as we start to walk. But the next thing that I want to do is I want to create a head and a neck, because that's going to give my little walker here a lot of character. And so I'm just going to start off with a cube. This is going to be the head, and I kind of like it's kind of silly and kind of funny looking, this big huge head that's plopped on. So maybe I'll keep it just like that, a big bobbly head, or maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. Let's see. And again, it's not too important to over design this at this point, but make it a little bit smaller. I'll kind of move that down, and I'll just call this head. I'm going to copy the head, and I'm going to use this as the neck. And so what I'll do is just try 15 by 15, but I'll make that Y value a little bit taller. There we go. So I got a head, I got a neck, and I'm going to tap the S key to zoom in, and I'll just kind of scale this down a little bit and just noodle with it a little bit. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, the head and the neck, in terms of the way that I want to rig this, there's a couple of different ways to do this, but I think that the easiest way for me is going to be I'm going to make the neck the parent object, okay? And so I'm going to call this neck, and the idea here is I have my neck, and I'm going to make it editable because I want to move the access point. Now, I'm going to move the access point down closer to the shoulders, and I'll go back to the model tool. That way when I rotate the neck is actually pivoting here, okay? And as I'm doing this, I see that I actually want my neck a little bit longer. So I'm actually going to undo this until it turns back into a parametric primitive. That'll easily allow me to scale this up. Now I could have done that with the scale tool as a polygon object, but I just chose to do it this way instead. And I'll move that down, just kind of eyeballing it. Go back to the model tool, and I'll take that and I'll rotate. And I like that. That actually rotates right where I want it to, more or less. I'm going to take the head, and I'm going to drop that inside the neck. And that way, when I grab the neck, I can bob the head back and forth at the neck. I'll take the head and I'll make it editable, and I'm going to move its axis down closer to the neck. And at this point, maybe it's beneficial to jump into these flat views and get a really precise idea of where these things are starting to rotate. But again, this is just a real simple model to start playing around with some of these concepts. The head's right where I want it. I'll go back to model. And now what I can do is I can take the neck and I can rotate that forward. I can take the head and I can rotate that up a little bit, and that'll start to work pretty well. So the neck and the head I want to move with the upper body, right? Kind of makes sense that if I'm sitting or walking around and I bend my torso, my arms, my shoulders, my neck, my head are going to follow. And so I'll just take that neck and drop it inside the upper body. So that upper body, when I select it, when I rotate, all that stuff goes with it. Now, I'm playing with this, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to rig this and move its access point so it rotates around the proper points. And what I want to do is, as I rotate my torso, I realize that I got a little bit of a problem with my mechanics here, that I'm not bending at the waist. Okay, and so I'll fix that. My upper body is still a parametric primitive, so I'll make it editable. Go to the axis tool, go to the move tool, and I'll just sort of move that down. That's about where I want it, and I'll go back to the model tool, and now there we go. Okay, so as I'm moving forward with this, I'm testing my rig, and so I can go into my upper body. I can grab I'll just stick to the right side, my right arm, and I can swing that arm back. I can go to the lower arm, swing that forward. I'll go to the upper body, and now I can really start to articulate this model. Okay, I still got to work on the upper lower body relationship here. I'm not so worried about the upper body being a parent of the lower body at this point. What I'm going to do is I have upper body. I'll be consistent and make that capital for lower body. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to group these two things together. I'm going to select both of these. All my hierarchy, my object manager is completely collapsed. I'll select both of these objects. I'm going to Option G or go to Objects, Group Objects. And now this whole thing, this is my character. This is my walker. It's my robot. It's my person. I'll just call it Walker for now. And so this thing is effectively rigged at this point. I do want to correct for my, let's see, did I rotate my left arm? I'm not even looking at the object. I'm really just looking down here when I selected at the rotation values, and it was my right upper arm. I'll just zero out the rotation value. Grab the lower arm, zero that out as well. And what I'll do is I'll get this in a slightly more natural position here to animate. But I have my character more or less built. Before I start to animate, I'm going to think a little bit about the environment as well. And so I'm going to grab my entire walker object, a little person here. I'll probably give him another name here in a minute. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the ground plane. I don't really have a ground yet. So what I'll do is I'll introduce a plane or a cube, and I'll just flatten that cube out. And maybe I'll make it something like, let's try 3000 by 3000 just to get started. I can always come back and change this. And I'll select my walker and just kind of move it up and make sure his feet are sticking right up above the ground. Okay, and if I want to be really precise about this, again, I'll look at this through a nice flat side view. And I can move this up. He's floating off the floor right now, so I'll just put him right back down on the ground, and that'll be his neutral standing position. I will bend him at the knees and give him a little bit more of a little bit more character. Looks a little stiff right now, and we'll talk about that in the upcoming presentations.